Hello everybody, Phil on Folklore here, and today we're going to be talking about the 12 Titans in Greek mythology. Before the video begins, I just want to say if you're into folklore mythology of not only just Greece but around the world, consider subscribing because that's pretty much all I talk about on this channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. Who were the 12 Titans in Greek mythology? The 12 Titans are generally considered to be 6 male gods and 6 female gods. The male Titans were Cronos, Iapetus, Oceanus, Hyperion, Crius, and Coeus, whilst the females were Themis, Tethys, Theia, Mnemosyne, and Phoebe. The 12 Titans were the offspring of Cronos and Gaia. Unlike Cronos' other children, he didn't pay much mind to the Titans and allowed them to roam free of the Greek world. The decision of Cronos to leave these Greek gods and goddesses free proved to be a costly mistake, for Gaia would incite them to rise up against Cronos in the near future. Ultimately, when Cronos descended from the heavens to mate with Gaia, Iapetus, Hyperion, Crius, and Coeus held down their father at the four corners of the earth, while Cronos, wielding a golden sickle gifted to him by his mother, castrated his father. Cronos did survive the attack, and he retreated back to his domain with much of his power now gone. Cronos was the only Titan willing to wield the sickle, took the position of the supreme deity over the Greek pantheon. Now that we know the backstory of how the Titans were born and how they rose to power, let's explore each Titan's backstory. Oceanus. Oceanus was the eldest of the Titans. He is often depicted as a long-haired, bearded man with horns and a fishtail. He wields a scepter to show his power and can be seen riding on sea creatures alone or with his wife Tethys. The ancient Greeks believed that the great freshwater river called Oceanus surrounded the world where the sky touched the earth's surface. To the west, where the Mediterranean meets the ocean, many believed this was the gateway to the underworld and the mystic lands. According to Plato and Homer, as the origin point of all earthly waters, he was considered the primeval father of all life. Oceanus married his sister wife Tethys, and together they had 6,000 children. 3,000 sons and 3,000 daughters. Their children were known as the Oceanids, nymphs residing in the fresh water and the oceans of the earth. Some of the descendants of the Oceanids are Amphitrite, who was the wife of Poseidon, and Metis, the ancient goddess of wisdom. Unlike his siblings, Oceanus didn't participate in any conflict or wars. He remained a detached force of nature rather than a warrior. He refused to participate in the killing of his father Cronos, and he sat out the massive war between the Titans and the Olympians. He did, however, send his daughter Styx to support Zeus in the war, aiding in their victory. As the Olympian gods eventually rose to power and Poseidon claimed the Mediterranean, Oceanus had no choice but to recede to the unexpected corners of the world, where he now rules over the great Atlantic Ocean. Coeus. Coeus was the second oldest Titan and the embodiment of questioning and intellect. Coeus was also one of the four pillars holding the heavens and the earth apart. He represented the north pillar, while his brothers were the other three. Coeus and his brothers were involved in the killing of his father Cronos. Coeus assisted Cronos by holding his father down, while Cronos attacked with his sickle. Coeus would go on to marry his sister Phoebe, and together they birthed Leto and Asteria, and they would eventually become the grandparents of Artemis and Apollo. After the great loss in the war between the Titans and the Olympians, Coeus was banished to Tartarus, a dark abyss in the underworld serving as an inescapable prison for the defeated Titans. There is one account where he attempted to escape, but he was caught by Cerberus, the three-headed dog and guardian of the underworld. Coeus was thrown back into the void and imprisoned for eternity. Crius. Crius was the Titan of the cosmos and the constellations. Crius is more of a mysterious figure in the surviving texts, as not much is truly known about him. From what we do know, Crius is the southern pillar holding the heavens and the earth apart. Crius also assisted in Gaia and Cronos' plan to kill their father Cronos. Crius' name translates to ram in English. Many theorize he is associated with Ares, since they are both symbolized by a ram. Crius married Eurypia and became the father to 3 sons, Astraeus, Perseus, and Palus. Like the other Titans, Crius was imprisoned into Tartarus after losing the Titan and Olympian war. Other than that, not much is truly known about this obscure ancient deity. Hyperion. Hyperion was the Titan of the heavenly light and observation. He was the eastern pillar dividing the heavens and the earth, and he also represented the sun. Hyperion also took part in seizing hold of his father Oceanus when Cronos was castrating him. He married his sister Theia, and together they gave birth to 3 entities that live in the sky: Helios, Selene, and Eos. Helios represented the sun, Selene represented the moon, and Eos represented the dawn. Hyperion's original role in ancient texts was to determine the cycles of his children. Since Helios represented the sun, Selene the moon, and Eos the dawn, Hyperion founded the natural rhythm of the days, nights, and months. In other words, according to the ancient Greeks, we have Hyperion to thank for the days, months, and the years. Unfortunately for Hyperion, he did participate in the Titan and Olympian war, and Zeus ended up locking him in Tartarus for the rest of eternity. Iapetus. Iapetus was the elder titan of mortal life and ancestor of mankind. He represented the human lifespan and the importance of remembering mortality. Iapetus was the western pillar between the heavens and the earth, and his name translates to the piercer. It's also worth noting that he assisted Cronos in his father's castration. Iapetus would go on to marry Oceanus' daughter, Clymene, and together they birthed Prometheus, Atlas, Epimetheus, and Mnemosyne, who were also known as the ancestors of the human race. In ancient texts, Hesiod describes Iapetus' sons as the worst qualities of human nature, with Prometheus representing cunning, Epimetheus with foolishness, Atlas with daringness, and Mnemosyne with rashness. According to Homer in the Iliad, he mentions that Iapetus was locked in Tartarus after losing the war between the Titans and the Olympians, where he remains for eternity. Theia. Theia was the Titaness of sight and shunning light, often depicted as a beautiful glowing woman wearing a crown of stars, with beams of light emanating from her eyes. Many ancient Greeks believed her eyes provided insight to mortals if they caught her gaze. Theia has a reputation for providing exceptional foresight and knowing what has value before anyone else does. In other words, she can recognize the worth of something before the rest of the world catches on. Because of her keen eye for worth, Theia is often associated with finding jewels, silver, and gold in the ancient Greek mines. Theia was married to Hyperion, and the mother of Helios, Selene, and Eos, the heavenly entities of the sky. Like the rest of her siblings, she was involved in the war between Titans and Olympians, and eventually got locked up in Tartarus by Zeus. Themis. Themis was the Titaness of divine law, human justice, and order. She was known for her wisdom and good counsel, and was responsible for maintaining cosmic and social order. Homer originally describes Themis as a wise woman often holding scales to represent the balance and fairness of things. She is also depicted as a woman wielding a sword and wearing a blindfold. Long before Apollo claimed the title, Gaia gave Themis the position as keeper and prophetic voice of the Oracle of Delphi, which was the most influential spiritual and political authority in the ancient Greek world. One of her most famous visions is when she advised Zeus and Poseidon to not marry the sea nymph Tethys, as any son born to her would be greater and more powerful than his father. Heeding Thetis' warning, Thetis was married off to the mortal Coeus, and became parents of the legendary hero Achilles. It is also mentioned in the epic lost poem of Cypria, Themis and Zeus planned the Trojan War as a way to reduce the Earth's population and punish mankind's arrogance. In other words, the Trojan War was prematurely planned. Unlike her siblings, Themis survived the Titan War by remaining neutral and becoming one of Zeus's wives. Themis birthed the goddess of seasons, justice, and the 3 fates, who controlled the destiny of every mortal. Intimidated by the fates' power, Themis and Zeus eventually ended their marriage to preserve their lives. Even though they split up, however, Themis remained a highly respected counselor on Mount Olympus, often seen sitting next to Zeus's throne. Mnemosyne. Mnemosyne was the Titaness of collective and individual memory. She is viewed as the goddess of remembrance and also the inventress of language, words, and persuasive stories. Through her, gods and mortals could preserve names, histories, promises, laws, traditions, and songs. In ancient Greece, oral tradition and remembering stories was a vital part of the culture and tradition, which explains why Mnemosyne was worshipped by many bards and poets who wandered throughout ancient Greece. After Zeus defeated Cronos and established a new divine order of the Olympians, Zeus would secretly visit Mnemosyne around the hills of Eleuther near the present-day region of Pieria in northern Greece. For 9 consecutive nights, the two slept together, and after the seasons had passed, Mnemosyne gave birth to 9 daughters of one mind, all devoted to song. They became known as the Muses. The Muses were known to help any poet who called upon them to help them recover events he had never personally witnessed. This is why, to this day, writers, poets, and singers still have people that they call their muse. According to Hesiod's Theogony, the Muses gave Hesiod a staff and breathed a divine voice into him, granting the power to sing about things that existed in the past and things yet to come. Altogether, we can credit Mnemosyne and her daughters for Hesiod's poem describing the Greek divine world. Mnemosyne's essence is often associated with the pool of Mnemosyne in the underworld. This pool is known to give whoever drinks it the ability to retain their memories and knowledge across lifetimes. Phoebe. Phoebe was another goddess of intellect and prophecy. She was married to Coeus and became mother of Leto and Asteria. Phoebe didn't fight in the Titan Olympian War either, as she was more focused on the mind and cosmic order of the world. She was allowed to remain free from the depths of Tartarus thanks to her neutrality. Phoebe was the third deity to control the sacred oracle of Delphi. When it was her time to retire, Phoebe gifted the divine position of protector of the oracle of Delphi to Apollo for one of his birthdays. From there, Phoebe somewhat fades away from the rest of Greek history as more generations of the Greek pantheon would be born. Tethys. There was a time in ancient Greece where Tethys was highly regarded as the goddess of the sea. Tethys was primarily linked to fresh water, which went hand in hand with Oceanus, her husband. Together, they were believed to be the ultimate source of all of the Earth's fresh water. Tethys gave birth to 6,000 children and paid close attention to them. She remained neutral in the Titan Olympian War, and when Zeus took over, Tethys and Oceanus' lives were barely affected. Throughout Greek mythology, Tethys and Hera were always seen to be sharing a strong bond. During the war, Tethys nursed Hera back to good health and tended to her wounds. When Hera wanted revenge against Callisto, after finding out she was sleeping with her husband Zeus, Hera went to Tethys for consultance. In the story of Iapetus, Iapetus was the son of the king Priam of Troy, who had the ability to see the future. When Hecuba became pregnant with Paris, Iapetus warned his father of the destruction that the new son would bring upon Troy. Iapetus also went on to fall madly in love with the nymph Hesperia. One fateful day, Hesperia stepped on a poisonous serpent and was killed by the venom. Iapetus was plagued by grief from her death, and he decided he couldn't go on living without his love. Thus, he plunged himself from the tallest cliffs into the sea. But before the fall could kill him, Tethys transformed him into a magnificent diving bird. So when he hit the water, he dove gracefully into it and saving his life. Tethys was overall seen as a motherly figure and protector for not only her own children, but the heroes and the mortals as well. Rhea. Rhea is often called the mother of the Olympians, since nearly every major Olympian deity was born from her. Rhea married her brother Cronos and had 6 children with him: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. Cronos feared a prophecy that one of his children would eventually overthrow him. In response, he swallowed each children whole the moment they were born to prevent this from happening. Rhea watched in horror as this happened 5 times. When Rhea became pregnant with her 6th child, Zeus, Rhea decided she's had enough. On the advice of her parents, Uranus and Gaia, she gave birth to Zeus in a hidden mountain cave on the island of Crete. This gave Rhea time to smuggle Zeus away and to be raised in hiding, protected by the nymphs and guarded by the warriors who clashed their spears to drown out his infant cries. Years later, once Zeus was grown, he returned and forced Cronos to release his swallowed children, Rhea's other 5, setting off the Titan monkey. Through her defiance, Rhea became the reason the Olympian gods existed at all. Last but definitely not least, we have Cronos. Cronos is the youngest of the 12 Titans. Cronos rose to power when Gaia forged him an unbreakable sickle and asked him to kill his father, Uranus. Sickle in hand, he castrated Uranus, seizing his throne. Cronos had an overall good rule in his time of reign. Many say Cronos' rule was the golden age of the Greek gods. As time went on, Cronos became paranoid of a prophecy that foretold one of his children eventually overthrowing him. just like he did to his father years ago. To prevent this, Cronos swallowed each of his children whole, trapping them inside his stomach. This horrified Rhea, his wife, who was desperate to save their youngest, Zeus. When Cronos came for Zeus, she tricked him by handing over a rock with baby clothes and blankets instead of Zeus. Cronos, without knowing of the switch, swallowed this rock whole. Rhea hid Zeus from Cronos for many years. Zeus was raised in a hidden mountain cave on the island of Crete, and once he was grown, he returned to his father and forced him to release his siblings from his stomach. This triggered the Titan Marquis, the 10-year war between the Titans and the Olympians. Zeus and his siblings eventually won and imprisoned Cronos in the dark depths of Tartarus. With Cronos finally defeated and the Olympians free, Zeus became king of the gods. Anyways, guys, that's going to conclude it for today's video. If you learned something today or enjoyed sitting through this, be sure to leave a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what your favorite Titan was throughout the list we covered. If you are new here, please consider subscribing because, like I said in the beginning, folklore and mythology is pretty much all I cover on this channel. Join me next week as we dive into the second generation of Titans and all the sons and daughters of the 12 Titans that we just covered today. Anyways, guys, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I will be seeing you next week. Bye-bye.